call it to order. Could we have a roll call?
Arnold,
Here.
Beckwith,
Here.
Cheng, absent. Farkapisi,
Here.
Kotsinis,
Here.
Linsdale,
And you need to unmute.
It's okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Okay,
you're
sorry.
here.
Okay.
And the last one, Sutton.
Here.
We have all quorum.
Okay, pledge. Are you ready? Shall I count down? I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
United
United
States of America. Okay, there we go.
and to the
Three.
republic
Republic
Which
which stands
And
one
nation.
nation, under
Under
God,
God,
indivisible, with
with
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
Okay.
That's a nice picture.
Thank you.
Fort Newport Public Library District provides the community with access to information, kindles the imagination of children and adults, and supports lifelong learning. Is there anybody from the public here, Ryan?
We do have some staff members that are members of the public. I don't know if they'd like to speak. Also, Jennifer just joined the meeting.
Does anyone want to speak in public comment? Okay, so we have correspondence, right? Which is, where is that? The responses that are in the packet from.
Right.
Okay, so did everyone see those? Anyone want to make any comments on that?
Thanks for including those. That was really nice to read.
Yeah, it was. Okay, anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda? We're on to that now, number 5. All right, can I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
And you say the name,
Sorry, thank you. But if you're going to make a motion or second a motion, say your name first so Gina can get it in the minutes.
Andrea, so moved.
I'll second that.
Joe Beckwith.
Sorry. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay. President's report. We're on to that. Question?
You were very busy, Joe.
Was I?
Yeah.
Oh, probably. I can't remember. Okay. Other people's reports.
Well, I'd like to add something that you're missing with this report, Joe.
What?
Joe made a lot of masks for library personnel.
And the community at large.
Mhm.
Yes, I did. Thank you for saying that. 135 to be specific.
Right. So, Joe, it would be nice. Andrea did share with me a photo, which I didn't feel like I had permission to share, but do consider if we could share that because it would be nice to put on the library social media. So there's something to consider if you're comfortable with that.
Is it the one you took at my house?
Yes.
That's fine.
Can I put? You want to put it on the screen now, Ryan?
If I can, I don't know if it's where it may take me a second to find it, but I can.
I can send you mine too.
I could probably find it.
I won't do it now, but I'll do it when we're done since I don't know how to.
Okay. All right, shall we go on then?
Sure.
Pardon? We're good to go on?
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, is that it? No other trustees have a report then?
Not beyond our normal reports.
All right, so we're on to Ryan's.
I'm gonna share it now, Joe.
Oh yeah, that's me.
That's amazing. That's
Oh my
well
God.
done.
Joe.
Great job, Tim.
She's incredible.
Wearing the mask when you took the picture.
And then she even asks you what color you wear most or what color you'd like it in. It's just crazy.
Okay. All right, so we're on to Ryan's reports for March and April.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to point out is that the report that I sent you today, there's some information missing. March was a strange month because the first the first week was kind of a normal week. Then the second week, we started to become aware of how serious COVID-19 was and the steps we'd have to take. And then, the last couple of weeks of March, really, we were just adjusting as a staff, as a team. So some of the professional development activity, a lot of the professional development stuff is not in the report. So I just want to point that out. It's an incomplete report. Missing a couple other things as well. In terms of, looking ahead to reopening, we've been focused on a couple of different things right now. Really 4 areas, the way I see it. We've been focused on planning to start to offer physical services again. What does that plan look like? And we spent a lot of time on that, and it's going to continue to be a great deal of work. So that's one of our priorities. We've been prioritizing virtual program services and content, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. But we're starting to ramp those up, and you're going to see more and more of those as we head into May. Both the adult services team and the youth services team, they've done a tremendous amount of work planning and getting ready. For example, I know that youth services is going to start doing virtual story times and among other things we're already doing. So there's that. Also, communication has been a big piece, communicating to the public. And then we've been working on the budget and trying to figure out, okay, how does our response to COVID-19 necessitate a change in our current year's fiscal budget, and then looking ahead, which we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of discussions to have. So those are the really 4 areas of things that we're focusing on. And in terms of when we might start to open the library again and offer some limited services, really it all depends on the science and what the data is telling us. So I want to share my screen for a second, and I want to show you. Most of you probably have seen this before. Oh, I have the wrong, excuse me. Find my right. Oh, here it is. What happened to it? I lost it. Closed somehow. So what I'm doing is I'm going to the Lake County's coronavirus data hub. Here, I pulled it up again. I apologize for the delay here. And this is great because they update this daily. I mean, it's good to listen to what's going on. The governor has his daily briefings, and that's really important for us to look at. And it's great for us to look at what's going on at the national level. But I've really been focusing on Lake County to see what's going on. And this is great because you can look at COVID-19 cases by municipality. And if it's darker, it means there's a higher case, like in terms of per capita. So if it's lighter, that means your community is in better shape. So if you look at this map, there's more cases per capita in Waukegan than, say, Gurnee. More important than this, though, is to look at this curve, right? Total cases in Lake County. What we need to see is this curve flatten and start to decline a little bit before really we're able to reopen and start offering some of our services. And as you can see, it seems like we have a ways to go. And I'm sure you've been following the media about the challenges we're having with testing. And then even after we ramp up the testing and this curve starts to flatten, then there's other things that need to be put in place for us to be safe to go back to work, like the contact tracing, that type of thing. So I just wanted to show you this. This probably is, you see this every day, and not to beat you over the head with this information, but if you weren't familiar with the Lake County resource, this is important. And this is what I'm looking at anyway, to get a guide of when things might just slowly start to return more to normal. Clearly, it looks like we're a ways away from that. So
the governor said today, I think that they're not expecting the peak until now mid-May,
right.
and that 2 weeks later would be the earliest to think about opening up anything. So
yeah. So that's I mean that's just kind of I just gave you a really big picture overview of looking at the data and then talking about priorities. But what questions might the board have about what's going on with the library and staff, what we're planning?
Will we be requiring patrons to wear masks? I mean, because that's what we're supposed to be doing as people, I think, in Lake County or what the governor said. Somebody said it, but will we require patrons to wear them?
It's a good question. You know, there's some, like many of these questions are great questions. A lot of questions need to be answered. So at the village meeting last night, one of the things the village is considering is if they're going to make people wear masks as when they go into businesses. So right now you could go to Jewel and Gurney and you're not required to wear a mask, but the
No,
village.
you do have to wear a mask. It just started this weekend. Mm-hmm.
Oh, per the store's policy, but I think in terms of municipality, there are some municipalities that have said, you know, if you're going to go to a store, you know, people have to wear a mask. So, you know, if the village says that, I mean, does that apply to us? Is it a good thing to do? And do we have to provide the mask? And if we have to provide the mask, where do we get the mask from? That's one of the things I think the governor talked about in his press conference today too, was, you know, when businesses start to reopen, it may be easy for some of the larger businesses, maybe a place like Walmart, you know, with their, you know, huge company can get those masks for their employees, but for the Warren Newport Public Library, will we have a supplier? So that's a great question. I think we would certainly consider it. It's just a matter of the supplies, but we have time to look at this. And if we're looking at reopening down the road, we're hoping that the supply chain will open up and we'll have the ability to provide those things. So that's kind of a non-answer, Andrea, or some of the things we're considering, but yeah, I mean, it's on the table for sure.
Of course, if we're handing out masks free of charge, we might end up with half the town coming and getting masks.
Well, to be clear, the cloth masks that are available right now really aren't terribly effective, if effective at all. If you're talking about masks, you really need real masks, the kinds that you really can't get right now in the supply chain. The cloth ones might make you feel better, but they don't really do a lot, if anything, to prevent infection. So does it matter for us? Probably not. We will let this decision, I think, be made higher up. If the village says so, obviously we have to. If the governor says so, obviously we have to. But I don't think this is a place where we can really go off on our own.
Good point.
Lots of things to
We're
consider.
also considering limiting how many people can come in at a time.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, one of the things, without sharing the document, because it is it's pretty amazing. We've spent a lot of time. So Noreen is the project manager of the effort in terms of planning the reopening of the building and the different phases. So we've considered all of these things, like in terms of number of people in the building, or are we going to consider taking people's temperatures, all these things. And we're obviously still working these issues out. There's a lot to consider. Noreen, do you want to add anything to the conversation here? I mean, it's. And we kind of change this plan all the time. It's a very organic document.
Is the book drop open?
It is not.
Because I've got a bunch of books I want to return. So I guess, but there's nobody there to shelve them. So.
And the return slots are closed. So hold on to them.
Yeah. Hold on. You're doing us a favor.
Okay.
There's no overdue fees anyway, but yeah,
okay.
That's yeah, we did have the book drop open for a little while, at least the one, you know, that is attached to the building. But we just decided, okay, at this point, we run out of room to put books, honestly,
sure.
in other materials. So
okay,
that's one of the big things that we have to address, and we're still waiting for the final answer on how long the virus stays on materials. And I'm going to let Ryan tell you, because there's a new study being done that he found out about the other day.
Yeah, the ILMS, which is Institute of Libraries and Museum Services, I always get that wrong. They have commissioned a study with, I think they're called Battelle, in Columbus, Ohio. And the Columbus Metropolitan Library is actually providing library materials for them to test. They've got the live virus in their lab, and they're actually going to test the virus on library materials and see how long it lives on library materials. Because we've heard some data, and there have been some studies, but there hasn't been a study dedicated to library materials. And word is we may have some answers back on that as soon as 2 or 3 weeks. So that's something that I know that Rails is involved in and following. So yeah, we'll have that information soon enough. So we'll be able to say definitively, okay, if there's a a book cover, book jacket, like all our books have that Kevlar cover. How long does the virus live on that material? How long do we have to quarantine that material before it's safe? And there's a lot of differences of opinion. Some people say 24 hours, put everything in, decide 24 hours and it's fine. We've heard 72 hours because that's a plastic covering on the library books. I mean, I don't think we really know. So hopefully that study will give us some answers.
I mean, you could think about the pages too, as people might wet their fingers to turn the page. I mean, it's crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, we know people take their books into into their restrooms with them. I mean, you know, staff. well, I mean, I'm sorry, it happens. So, I mean, we know that, you know, the public, they treat the books like they own them. Like I guess we all collectively do own them, but so yeah, it's a concern for sure.
Well, and then I think what we have to do is we have to have a whole system, and we've already talked about that, probably in the meeting room where you'd have them lined up. This is how long these have been quarantined. We'd have to get rid of all the ones that are there first, which they're still there from being returned. So, I mean, it's all being thought out and figuring where we'd have to go, but we're still waiting for that essential piece of data, because there were even for a while people saying that it was 6 to 9 days. So it's changing daily. And that's kind of the difficult thing with this. So.
And the great thing about libraries, of course, is we're all about sharing and borrowing from each other. So we're all sharing our plans, and it seems like every day there's a new plan for reopening. The library shares with someone else, and we look at that and we take pieces from that weren't in our plan. So, you know, we're considering everything from, you know, what kind of personal protective equipment do we need for staff, to cleaning best practices, to are we going to have everyone come in shifts when we open, even like the administration office, you know, how is that going to work? Is it going to be like on certain days I come in, other days Noreen comes in, and then certain days Gina comes in, you know, we're talking about all these things. So it's a big job, and there's a lot to consider, because you have to rethink everything that you do.
Right.
One quick question. Are there any plans to implement HEPA filtration, at least in staff areas where there's basically less airspace?
Yeah, I think that's something that's on the plan for discussion, but you know, like many things, it's not something that we've seriously looked into.
Okay, is that March or March and April?
I think that's both.
That's what I thought, just checking. Any other questions on that? Okay, so we're on to the budget.
Yeah, so I sent out another document this afternoon because I you know, last week went with the first memo about the budget. This is budget changes for this fiscal year, right, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to share.
No, this is capital projects.
Oh, okay, great.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So let's talk about capital projects. Hold on one second. Okay, so the why is this not showing up on my computer? Let me try to share. Oh, there it is. Okay. I have several tabs open here, and to try to find the right thing sometimes can be challenging. There it is. Okay. So I sent out a new version of this thanks to Doug. And when I sent this out originally, I thought, wow, you know, 68% of accumulated fund balance at the end of 10 years. I'm like, that's better than I thought. And Doug called me and he's like, Ryan, I think there's a problem with your formula. You haven't accounted for something. And he was, darn it, he was right. What I wasn't taking away when we use special reserve funds, I wasn't figuring that into I mean, the formula was wrong. So I was meant to be doing that. So long story short, if we were to fund all the things that the board discussed funding at the committee of the whole meeting, so this includes if we could get a deal on a library van, that's in this budget. That includes doing the LED lighting project. That includes the parking lot. all of these big things that we talked about, if they are to stay in the budget, and we are to do all these projects, so we're projecting in 10 years, you're looking at about 58% of your yearly expenditure available, which is still above our policy of 50%, but you're getting kind of low. I guess the good news, if there's good news here, is in 10 years, we'll have debt service paid off. So then we can start building up our accumulated fund balance again. But if we were to stay the course, it looks like we are going to start to get lower and lower. And with this budget, it's important to note, in the past, when I showed you this capital plan, I was projecting the budget to increase a little bit of growth each year, as it has historically. However, with this budget, we're assuming zero growth the next 3 years. We're assuming a flat budget. The budget doesn't increase, and that obviously impacts things. It also incorporates some things that really weren't in the plan before that I thought were important to put in there, like our ILS system, which is, hovers around $100,000 a year in an expense, which wasn't reflected in this, and I thought it needed to be, to give you an accurate picture of what our major expenditures were. So, this is the big picture in terms of projections. Obviously, as we have learned recently, that you could be listening to an economist at the Federal Reserve in January telling you the economy is going to have steady growth the next several years, and then a couple of months later, you're spiraling down towards a depression. That's what's happened. So this is our best guess based on the data that we have. So I just wanted to put this picture in front of you as we talk about funding the capital project, specifically the parking lot, which you're going to vote on later, whether to fund it, because this does come into play in terms of big picture, what our financials will look like, as time goes on the next decade. So what questions might you have about this 10-year capital plan?
Am I understanding you right, that the budget is flat? So it doesn't really allow for any raises or things like that? And no increase in services? And it's missing, you said, like $100,000 a year for ILA something?
Well, the ILS system, the integrated library system, which is our circulation software, cataloging software, I just put that's reflected in the plan. Yeah, I mean, the budget is flat. It doesn't necessarily, that just basically means that we're
going to spend more than what we've already got.
Right. We're not gonna. The idea is that we're assuming in this capital plan we're not going to increase the budget. Because I think it's safe to say that, or to predict that, and there's no, once again, this isn't official. I'm just looking into my crystal ball. I can see there being momentum for a property tax freeze. So I could see that happening over the next several years. And if that happens, our revenue is certainly, as we all know, capped. So, and also with the, with the EAV, if the EAV goes down and the CPI, there could be I haven't been doing this enough, and I haven't had this experience to, how does that correlate to tax revenue? We're protected somewhat by the formula, but that's another consideration about revenue as well.
Well, what I'm seeing is if we're at 58% with a flat budget and certain things not included, we could easily drop below that if those things factored in.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty. This is conservative, because there are some things that I'm not accounting for. That I like, cost savings. Like one of the things that we've talked about, for example, to save money with the ILS system is moving to CCS, and that would save us some money. That's not reflected here. And this is if you fund all those capital projects. So maybe there's a project you don't fund. But I think a lot of our capital projects, we've realized that at some point you do have to fund them. But maybe some of things get delayed and buys us some time. But yeah, I mean, you're right, Andrea. I mean, this doesn't look. I think this looks okay, but it's not. It certainly doesn't say, hey, we can make whatever big capital project purchases we want because we've got all the money in the world. We certainly don't.
This looks okay if nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ryan, just Catherine, question: is this assuming we're spending all the capital like in a year one, or are we phasing it out? Did I miss that part?
Well, no, actually, that's a good question, because if you look at this, there's this percentage of budget capital expenditures, and as you see in this line, it's very heavy, the next several years, because we have some pretty big projects we've put in here. In addition, I think no, the bookmobile doesn't hit, I think, until 2024, 2025, but you've got like the adult space project, which we had in the budget, that's pushed out to FY 2021, 2022, for example, and that's about $250,000. So you've got some big projects early on. You're not missing anything. If we scroll back, this gives you an idea of what we're looking at in terms of year by year projects. And so if you just look at the facilities projects, you've got a lot of them early on, and then not so many planned for the future. But if you look at just the next couple of years, you're talking about $1 million in just facilities projects for the next couple of years, if we're to stay to this plan. And then getting into technology, and admittedly, it's hard with technology, because 5 years down the road, when you're doing a capital plan like this, what our technology needs going to be in 6 years? That can be hard to predict. There probably will be some things that will pop up that might be missing here. So, and that brings us back into the big picture.
Well, I'm really glad we've got this 10-year plan. I mean, 5 years, however long ago before you started, Ryan, we didn't have it.
Yeah. Well,
so at least we know we're headed for hard times.
Right. And this plan it's always going to, I mean, that's the way these things work. It changes year to year. So every year it's going to look different. I mean, like for example, the parking lot's a perfect example. We had, what did we have? Was it I'm trying to remember. Long story short, the parking lot project's probably going to cost us 3 times than what we anticipated in the capital needs assessment. And as you said, Andrea, some of these things you just can't anticipate. And usually what happens is you have to spend more as opposed to less with these projects. I hate to say it. It's not often where it's like, hey, we don't have to do this, $100,000 project. Great, we can remove this from the plan. I mean, sometimes, but not often.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we're ready for landscaping project.
Yeah, so in the memo that you received, it does break down the landscaping project. Let me see if I can pull that up in the packet. Basically, what I'm proposing that the board does is it essentially is basically allocate those funds out of expendable trust. The majority of it we raise through the Celebration Square project, which we do need to put back into the project anyway. That doesn't fully fund the project since we're doing the pavers, but it gets us most of the way there. And as you saw in the memo, we will have the option to use a different plant, a smaller plant along the ramp area if the board wants to do that. So let me see if I can get that up here.
I like the smaller plant idea.
Me too.
Where are you? Oh, I'm a little bit ahead. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. Actually, I need to get caught up here. There we go. Oh. Sorry about that. There we go. So there are the numbers for the project. And as you can see, you know, what is it, about just over $6,800 is for the landscaping part, but the over 4,000 is for the pavers.
Yeah.
So, and we've got $9,000 we specifically raised for the project out of the Celebration Square project. So, but I think the rest can be covered in expendable trust, and I think that makes sense to take those funds out of there. And over time, we'll replenish the expendable trust with more paver sales. So essentially, this project will fund itself through that fundraiser, I think. Questions?
I move that the board allocate $11,050 out of the expendable trust fund and use the smaller plants for this project. This is George.
I'll
Anyone?
second that. This is Joe, Gina. Further discussion? Let's have a roll call.
Arnold,
Aye.
Cheng,
Aye.
Farkapisi,
Nay, nay,
Sutton,
Aye.
Linsdau, Linsdau,
She's
Aye.
thank you.
Sorry.
Gotsinis,
Aye.
Beckwith,
aye.
ayes have it.
Okay. All right. Where are we? Okay, now we're on to budget changes.
Yeah. So budget changes. I'm going to stop this share and share something else. So I had said last week in the memo that I'd hope to have more details for the board in terms of budget changes. But there's still some information that we're trying to figure out in terms of responding to COVID-19 and how it impacts our services, specifically when we slowly start to reintroduce services at the physical location. But I do have a few things I would like the board to consider in terms of reallocating funds. You can see them on the screen. This is kind of small, but yeah, so we've got, I think that the big things here, let me see if I can just make these bigger so everyone can see more. Let's just make this like 16. Oh, of course. Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, that's fine, right? Okay, so in terms of amounts that I know, one of the big things is the e-content. So one of the things we decided to do, knowing that we would kind of get to this point, or well, not knowing at the time, because at the time we weren't sure how long we'd be closed, we decided to throttle up Hoopla a little bit because we knew that that was one of the more popular services and people would be utilizing it more with stay at home. So we are going to, unless the board votes to change this, we're in trouble with Hoopla because we don't have enough money to fund it the way we've been providing it. So it's a lot of money, but it's money we're not spending on other things that have been allocated. And it doesn't require a change in appropriations if we were to spend an extra $15,000 on Hoopla content. Same with Overdrive. There have been more things made available and there's some discounts. So we want to continue to add to that collection. And if you were to go back and look at those executive director reports, obviously we're not circulating anything physical, but we're increasing our electronic content. If the board decided they wanted to make those changes to the self-checkout machines this fiscal year, we could budget for that. It may not happen, but there's a possibility that project could happen. But just to be clear on expectations with the board,
Of the 50,000, that adds to 30,700. So are you is the 30,700 in addition to the 50,000 for a total of 80,700, or included in the 50,000?
It's not the e-content numbers are not included in the 50,000. Once again, that's a really high number. I don't think we're going to need that. I don't think that the things we're talking about are going to be anywhere close to that. I'm not even sure why I put that number in there. I think when I started, I put the number and I'm working in. But the only solid numbers I've got here, Andrea, are those first three numbers. So what is that about? Just over $30,000.
The cleaning piece of this whole idea might end up being more than we think if we have to outfit our cleaning people with how often are we going to be, having to disinfect? And that's a really unknown, I think, of the cost of that.
Yeah, and one of the numbers that's in here that probably inflates this number, I was looking into, which I've gotten away from that, is the idea of a thermal imaging camera in order to take temperature of staff and maybe the public. But it doesn't seem like that's probably overkill. And those things are super expensive, and I think they're a little bit invasive. We're probably better off just investing in a $35 digital thermometer and saying, and a thing of hand sanitizer, and telling staff, when you come in, you can take your temperature, and if you're sick, you go home and just be on the honor system, as opposed to the, spending $7,000 on a thermal imaging camera, which I don't think is necessary. So that was factored in early on too. Just as.
So you're thinking of that for staff, not necessarily for patrons walking in and out.
Well,
invasion of privacy, really, I don't know, but
right. And the reason I was thinking about that is I've been, paying attention to what other countries are doing that are really ahead of us in their response. I know China is a completely different form of government than we have, a communist form of government. I used to teach English in China, for these of you that don't know, so I know the country pretty well, and so I know it's certainly not the United States. But one of the things they're doing in China is taking people's temperatures as they go into places, and also I don't know what will that be a directive? I don't think so. I don't think anyone's going to tell us that we have to do that, but what's on my mind.
This summer, though, honestly.
What?
That would be very hard to do as the temperature warms up, because all of those cameras require that you first stabilize the temperature of the person coming in, or you don't get a good signal.
That's correct. Yeah, I pretty much dismissed the camera idea, but it was something I was thinking about last week. So
you said the first three numbers are stable, but is the self-check number really stable if you don't even know if you can have it done?
Well, I mean, the number is what it would cost. Is it, one of the things we could do is we could budget for it. And then if it doesn't happen, we could look at doing it next fiscal year. I just wanted to put it on here as an option. But there is some uncertainty, and it's not the priority of this list. So if that's something the board wanted to wait on, I completely understand.
This is Jennifer. I have a question. So
yes,
these
Jennifer.
are potential budget increases that you're recommending due to your anticipation of what the additional costs might be due to COVID-19. What are the potential budget savings or budget reductions of the library not being in operations for this past 3 or 4 weeks, and the expected more other weeks that we might have the library shut down? So there might be any type of savings or any type of expenses that are not going to be incurred because of the library being closed. Can those be offset with those budget increases that you're recommending to do?
Yeah, a good question, Jennifer. Everything is offset with other expenditures we won't be making. Off the top of my head, there's the adult space project, which was close to $100,000, which we're not doing. There are Sunday hours, which we're not paying. There's some continuing education, like ALA, for example. We were going to send several people to ALA this summer. That's not happening. ALA has been canceled. The ALA Annual Conference in Chicago. So there's a few off the top of my head in terms of savings that would offset these expenses.
And these expenses are not worked into our budget, the 10-year plan, because this is the current year's budget we're talking about. The additional expenditures that we had not budgeted for in the current year.
That's correct. And honestly, though, that's why this is a little bit not clear, because we just don't know some answers to some questions, like the cleaning, for example. That's a big question, because if we're just talking about doing a deep cleaning and we don't really start to reopen the building until June, probably don't need to add money to that budget line. That's probably already covered in our current budget.
Well,
but there's a possibility.
I don't see a reason for a deep cleaning if nobody's there. I mean, anything in the public part of the library, has been a month closed. So yeah. And we can't clean after everybody touches something. So I'm not a fan of doing a deep clean every night, because the moment someone touches something the next morning, it's all gone. Maybe more cleaning in the staff areas, or staff should be responsible, for making sure that they're wiping down their own areas, but the common areas that people touch, copiers, I'd be more of a fan of making sure that we've got a big bottle of hand sanitizer on every single person's desk. And at the copier, and the
self-checkout, all of it.
You just can't keep up with the germs. It's impossible.
I think, Andrea, it's not just keeping up with the germs, because you're right, but you do have to at least fight them back a bit. And I think what we're talking about with deep cleaning, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, is enhancing our cleaning procedures so that they are more effective against virus type infections rather than more general cleaning that we typically do. And that does involve some changes in the cleaning procedures. Dusting, for example, dry dusting does not work. So you have to adjust all of the dry dusting that you used to do to a more active cleaning program, and that will cause more time, which will cost more money.
What we pay in cleaning is like $5,600 or $6,000 a month already. I mean, we're talking about a lot of expense here. I think people in all over the state, all over the world, as we come out of our houses, are going to have to take a lot of responsibility for their own personal safety and not have, we can't rely on other people to protect us in the grocery store or wherever we're going. We have to protect ourselves. And it's impossible for us to protect every client and every employee out of a piece of virus, because it's going to be everywhere. It's like glitter. It gets everywhere. And it's impossible.
Maybe providing gloves at the doors, or for people who feel uncomfortable touching things, would be even better than the masks. I don't know.
To me, it seems like we're debating the things that are still really under TBD.
Yeah,
So,
right.
Sure.
I would like to suggest that we make a motion that I'll make it if other people agree, that to make a motion to approve the overdrive and the hoopla and the self-check machines, and then monitor this rest of this list over the next couple of meetings for more, till we have more information. I'm not sure what we're approving really.
I agree. I agree with Joe. We don't know yet.
Other people?
I agree there.
So do I.
Agree.
All right, let's see. I move that the board.
Hey, Joe, go ahead. I have a question.
No, ask it first.
No, I mean, would the board consider approving at least a smaller amount of money for at least the acrylic dividers for service desk? Because I think that's something I know we want to do it on, but I don't have a quote on it yet, at least up to a certain amount, so we can move forward and not have to wait until the May board meeting to allocate funds for that.
And get it going right away. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Do we actually need to allocate funds for that, Ryan? Or do you expect that to be above the threshold where you'd need budgetary approval?
I guess not. I guess there's enough appropriation. It probably, and I'm not sure what, but Doug's not on the call where we would put that, what category that would fall under off the top of my head. So
Just think about that for a second. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 people? 2 at reference, 2 at youth services, 3 at CERC. Well, 2 CERC and the security person.
What about the children's librarian?
That's what I said, youth services.
Okay.
of the service desks that we have, we're talking. I think we're still working on the details, but I think we're talking about the adult reference desk, the circulation desk and the security desk, and then youth.
Youth has 3 desks.
Well, yeah, they do have the point desk and
CERC has 2 plus the security. That's 3 at CERC.
Right.
But can't 2 people sit at youth services?
We're not.
Yeah, but we would. But when I mean that's right now. But once talk about things we'll have to rethink and change. That's.
We have 3 youth services desks. There's one in the point, one in the vault, and then the main one.
Oh, right. So that could add up quickly.
Well, I would like to say, as cheap as I am, this is where I'm willing to spend money. I don't want to have a flimsy divider. I don't want to have something that's not as wide as we should. This constant people who might approach less than 6 feet away. Right. This is not where I want to save money.
I agree with you, Andrea.
Well, and it's different for each desk because the children's desk sits lower. So you're going to have to put it higher.
Yes, I was thinking of that too.
All those desks, and the circ desk is actually, they're not 6 feet apart. So we have to figure that out. But they're a little bit lower than the adult desk. So I think Kevin was actually going out today to size things and go over. There's a place in Gurnee.
He did, yeah.
Okay, so,
Let's ask this. Will it be under $25,000?
no. Those three together were 29.5, right?
What were?
The three at the top, Hoopla, Overdrive,
Oh,
Self.
No, just the glass.
We're talking about the,
Oh, okay. Would it be over what?
Would it be over 25,000? Do we have it high enough that we need to worry about
I
bid?
can't imagine that it would.
I don't think it's gonna be that
But if
high,
we're
no way.
if we're discussing it, why can't we just approve it? If we know, we should just roll it in if we don't spend it or it's less.
so what are you saying?
That makes
I think
sense.
that we should include it in the motion. We should include it
Yeah,
with
but how
the
much?
hoopla and overdrive.
So how much do you think we should include in the motion? 10,000?
More.
I don't think 10,000 is going to be enough for the.
I don't either. 20. I would go 20. What do you guys think? I mean, we're ballpark figuring.
If I'm ballparking that much glass with installation,
Acrylic.
Well, it's probably plexiglass.
Right.
well, plexiglass and glass aren't any cheaper. Let's assume about 20,000.
Okay.
What does the board want to do about do we want to wait and do the self-checkout machine update in next fiscal year or talk about it for next fiscal year?
Yes.
Yes. Next week.
Was that the one that
It was.
is outdated and we're subject to
Right. Yeah.
subject to, what was it, ransom?
Well, it's a Windows 7 machine, and as George points out, that's not secure. So.
I mean, someone could
are now-
ransomware us.
I mean, I think it's something we have to do, if not this fiscal year, very early on next fiscal year. So, I kind of want to have it budgeted. So if we are able to get it done with the vendor, we could do it. And if we don't, then we'll budget it for next fiscal year.
One of our clients in our office got ransomed. And they paid the money.
Oh no, because they didn't have the
Yeah,
backups
It
or anything.
shut their operations
Yikes.
down.
Yeah. Let's get that taken care of.
Right. Well, I mean, we have a good system in place, but yeah, even if you have to restore from backups, you lose time. So.
Right. So the total of what we're looking at, if we add in the curbside situation, is just a little over $50,000.
Yeah.
So let's just do that.
All right. So then we could just make the motion that's in the.
Yeah.
Let's see. I move that the board approve changes to the budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 as presented.
I second that. That's
That
fine.
was me, Gina. Joe.
And Bonnie second.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yes. We plan, if we pass that motion giving Joe, dictatorial power until the next board meeting, she can certainly, if the acrylic dividers ended up costing more, Joe can certainly be brought in at that point before the next board meeting. I think that would fall under that. So we do have a level of protection there.
Please stay healthy, Joe.
We'll see if we can get it under 20. So we don't have to worry about it.
Also, as long as it'll take to get an estimate and order supplies, it's probable that we'll be able to meet and talk about it as a board also.
Now, we're planning on taking these down someday, right?
I hope so.
Who knows? It could be the new normal.
Well, that's a thing to ask about, is how they can be designed so that they're, not drilling permanent holes in the top of the desk.
Yeah, it's definitely a consideration.
If we make them look nice enough and people like them, they might keep them, you know? You see them in banks all over the place.
Yeah, you do. I think it's going to be something like what happened with our airports at 9/11. I think we're going to see a lot more of that at post offices and a lot of places.
There's a place that I visited that had them hanging like floating screens from the ceiling, and it's just hanging like a little curtain from the top to bottom instead of permanently placed on a desk.
All right, I'm sorry, did somebody second?
Yes.
Yes, Bonnie.
Okay, so.
I favor an airtight solution if you can find it, by the way. Just
What is?
If you can make an airtight solution so we can actually have physical separation that's not a thing that's just hanging, that'd be better.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right, let's have the roll call, please, Gina.
Sutton,
Aye.
Linsdau,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Farkapisi,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Cheng,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay. On to the resolution.
Right.
Okay, there we go. I don't think we sent it out a couple of times. I don't think there were any changes that we heard about anyway. So, Joe, I guess the question for the board would be, is the board comfortable with the way this looks as presented?
As much as I dislike the idea, I think we're doing it right.
I know I have to say that as I read it, it sounded fine with our present board president, but knowing how the past has been, even though I wasn't part of it, it scares me a little bit, but I think we have to do it for right now.
I would say with the group that we have, I understand why you're afraid. I know what you're saying. It's very sobering. But we have a good group, and it'll be what it's supposed to be with this group.
And
My opinion.
it does say that it'll remain in effect until, it's temporary, July 31st. So nothing's changing before then.
Any other comments?
Well, our board doesn't change for basically 13 months. And I know all of the board members that we have here are dedicated, and nobody would lightly resign unless they were very ill. So I have confidence in our board. I have confidence in Joe. If Joe takes ill, I have confidence in George. If George takes ill, I have confidence in any one of the other four of you. And so I'm fine with this.
Also, just as a point of information, Andrea and I had a conversation about whether it would be appropriate for me to abstain from voting. And whether I asked Ryan if I should even sign it. But then what we decided was that since it really isn't about me, it's about the office. And right now I hold the office, but if something happened to me, it would be someone else. So with that in mind, I do intend to vote and to sign.
But you're voting last, so.
Yes, I always vote last. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, would someone like to make the motion?
This is George. I'll make the motion. I move that the board adopt resolution 2019-2020-7 delegating authority to make decisions.
This is Andrea. I second the motion.
Any further discussion? Let's have a roll call, please, Gina.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Cheng,
Aye.
Linsdau,
Aye.
Farkapisi,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, parking lot.
All right. I pondered this over the weekend, and also I watched the village board meeting last night, and one of the things, and let me share on my screen once again, my little pros cons list that hopefully you all had a chance to see. Of course, what did I do with it? Well, let me talk about the pros and cons list because it's just to save some time here. I think the big pro for me at this point is we have this great relationship with the village, and the village already their fiscal year starts May 1st. They've already implemented their kind of their backup plan for their budget, and they're going to continue to amend their budget and adjust to the reality of the revenue, and of course they should do that. So they've already made some changes to fund the roads project, which includes our parking lot. They've already picked out a vendor, went the low bid, and the village board approved that last night. So I do worry about future village capital projects and whether or not we'll be able to get involved with that. It's a project that we need to do, and we have the added benefit if we did it this summer. Traffic just isn't going to be as heavy as it is. That said, a couple of big disadvantages. Number one, you saw the projection. It's that we'll have to make some tough capital project decisions. But I think a parking lot, you've got to do that at some point. And the other negative would be just educating the public, because the public may say, well, why is the library doing this parking lot? Look at what's going on. The economy's been hit and the library is doing this project. So I think maybe some education will be needed to explain that this is part of our 10-year capital plan. We've been planning on doing this, and we have to do it now because it just gets more expensive down the road if you just let it go. So that's my thought process on it. But I completely understand both sides, and I understand if any board members are hesitant to green light the parking lot project in light of the current situation that we're in.
I'll give my 2 cents. It's going to cost us more if we wait. It has to get done. This is the best time of the bad times. There's never a good time to do a parking lot. Everybody hates it when you redo the parking lot. We are never going to get buy-in from our patrons about doing a parking lot until they see the new parking lot and are parking on it. Now is as good a time as any. Let's get it done.
I tend
I
to
agree.
agree, George. I just think, especially with the fewer patrons coming in and out possibly this summer, this might be a good time to do it. And the idea that we can, coordinate with the village, I think is something that we should put out to the public as a real positive.
I agree with what Bonnie said. I think that we should do some kind of communication so people understand we're not just being willy-nilly. But I really think we should do it in conjunction with the rest of the district or whatever.
Anyone else? Would like to make a motion?
It's Bonnie. I move that the board approve resolution 2019-2020-7 delegate. Oh, sorry, wrong. I didn't cross that one off my list yet. Okay, I move that the board adopt and approve expenditures for the parking lot in conjunction with the Village of Gurnee.
This is George. I'll second.
Further discussion? Okay, let's have a roll call.
Farkapisi,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Cheng,
Aye.
Linsdau,
Aye.
thank you. Cottini,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
I have it.
Okay. Items for next month. Nothing?
Hard to predict, isn't it?
Oh,
Or-
let's wait and see. Okay, would anyone like to speak in public forum?
We did have some new people join the meeting, and some of them I don't know, just because they're their phone numbers. So maybe there's someone out there.
No?
Guess
You were
not.
muted, Ryan.
Yeah, I guess not. I don't see anyone in the chat or anything that wants to say anything. So.
All right, anything about the announcements, National Library Week?
Yeah, so it is National Library Week, and we are celebrating today as National Library Workers Day. So I sent a message out to staff earlier and thanking the staff and reminding them that although we haven't face-to-face in person at the library served members of the public, we're doing it virtually. We're going to ramp that up, and that they are appreciated. We appreciate our library workers. So tomorrow is National Library Bookmobile Day, I believe, if I've got my schedule correct. So there is a virtual bookmobile meetup that we sent our picture in for. I think we'll put that on our social media so you can check that out. And I'm going to send a message out to the public. One of the things I'm going to start doing is something I think we're calling Library Connections, where myself and some staff will put out some videos. Hopefully I'll connect with some community leaders, some nonprofits in our community doing some good things, and just getting out some good information about how our community is responding to COVID-19. So I'm excited about that project.
I just want to add that we're gonna have the library trustee forum, and it's gonna be a free webinar. Are you planning to attend?
Oh yeah, Gina, I'm glad you brought that up. Is that April 30th? We'll get that sent out. I think we sent that out earlier this week, but there is a
Thursday, April 30.
Okay, yeah.
At 10 a.m. until noon.
So it's free for trustees. So we'll get that information out if you're able to attend.
Sorry, what is it again?
It's on a Thursday?
It's Thursday, April the 30th.
The 30th.
Oh, okay. I thought it was usually on a Saturday.
Well, it is usually whenever.
What difference does it make, right?
What is it again?
Here, I'm gonna share it.
Okay.
So it's a webinar for trustees, and okay. Let's see, okay. Plan, implement, communicate, building strategic planning and storytelling capacity for community impact.
Sorry, my thing is messed up between mute and unmute. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm remote learning during that time, so I'm not going to be available.
And I don't know if this is one of those webinars where if you sign up or if you register, others may view the recording when it's available. So it might, if you have any interest at all, it might be worth registering and then having access to the recording at a later time, because 10 to noon on a Thursday, you might be working your day job. Most of you probably are. So not the best time, but you can watch it later if you want to.
Is it possible that somebody can register and record it, and we can watch some segments of it on the next committee of the whole?
I will. I have to work at 11 that day, but maybe I'll see if I can change that and watch it, and so I'll register.
And there's no additional fee to the library for this?
This is completely free. No fee.
And if I read that right, they will have it available to view after the fact if you miss the actual live time. So you might as well register.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else have any announcements?
Can I say something?
Yes.
My mask was Dr. Seuss.
Hi, you lucky. So was Ryan's, right?
Yeah.
I had 4 of those and 3 of them went to librarians.
I'm actually going to be afraid to wear it because people are going to come up too close to me to look
That's right.
at it.
That's right. It's too nice. It's too cool. So
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. All right, who would like to move to adjourn?
This is George. I move we adjourn.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Hi.
Abstain. Thank you, everyone.
Good
8:10.
night.
Thanks, everybody. Stay healthy.
I miss you guys.
Miss you
Yeah.
too.